it's great to see that we're now accessing the information from other partners who get hate crime reported to them. That's good. That's so that we're now all working, hopefully, in the same direction to ensure that, one, that incidents are being reported, and two, that victims are being supported. And also the positive thing from what we've just been shown for me is that although the figures on the section where the third party reporting centers is shown is low, I just want to mention to people who aren't aware that majority of the incidents that come to the third party reporting center members, their work is very much to persuade the victims or the individuals who come to them to talk about hate crime to report it to the police. And the fact that the numbers there is shown low doesn't mean that they're not actually coming to them, but it means that actually we are successfully persuading people that they have to report it to the police so that things can be done at an early stage.
Yes, thank you, Ian. Just a quick question. Hate crime as a result of the Indian variant against Indian community in Southampton, or?
You broke up, Malkit, but I am assuming your question was, has there been any reported hate crime related to the Indian variant? Is that the question?
Yeah, yes. I mean, has it increased, was the question.
No, it was something I was going to touch on later on during the meeting, but as you've raised it now, we have sadly seen incidents reported to the police, which are linked as a result of the media discussion and talk about the Indian variants, as there was, if people will remember, at the start of the pandemic, when the issue was targeting our East Asian communities, particularly the Chinese community, when the word Chinese virus was being used. We haven't seen a huge number yet. As far as I'm aware, again, Alex, correct me if I'm wrong, I am only aware of one so far in the city relating to that, but I am pretty confident that as the media still splash around this word Indian as the impact thing, the bigots out there will pick on that and will target our South Asian communities. And this is why it's very important for all the partners in this network, community and agency, to please bear that in mind, that this is something that is potentially likely to increase, and we need to be aware of it and report it at the earliest opportunity so we can
prevent network. So I know it's not entirely the right forum to talk about prevent, but in terms of how extremism plays out as hate crime, Superintendent Claire Jenkins is looking at that force-wide. So those of us who are prevent leads, of which I'm one, are sort of exploring that, because the obvious synergy between how those extremist views play out in terms of victimisation is probably important to join the dots. We have a prevent board in Southampton, and in some parts of Hampshire, hate crime is increasingly sitting within the scope of that board. But that's a discussion, I think, after the meeting, Ian and Sam, we can have with Mary and others about that, because I think sometimes we're seeing now through the prevent routes hate crime data being presented as well. So it's probably important for transparency to bring that all together.
Thank you, Jason. And Andy Wood.
That the legal definition of hate crime is, if it's perceived by anyone, then we need, as an organization, the police have to tag it as such. Whether at the end of the day it goes through as a hate crime to court depends on the evidence. But I can tell you that if it's the same one we're talking about, it was tagged as a hate crime. Maybe how it was dealt with by the individual officer is what we have to look at and question and make sure that we're learning from. But something that we can discuss.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah, mine was less of a question and more of a just pointing something out. We've recently done a piece of work with our members where we sent out a survey, and we've had 26% of respondents say that they either, coming out of lockdown, have either experienced some form of harassment or friction when out and about, or that they're really scared of it. So I just wanted to raise that as a point, really.
But importantly, to think also about, because there's a lot of online stuff going on. And I attended this conference the other day around right-wing conspiracies. And they were really talking about that one of the most important things that can be done is to get young people to have some critical thinking, which allows them to think about what is authentic and what isn't, and what, you know. So I was just thinking, perhaps we, instead of just investing in training professional after professional after professional, can we not look at how we can actually do some education and training actively within communities, and particularly young people,
Agreed.
and invest there?
Can I add quickly? Sorry, Ian, I know we're dragging on here the agenda, but no,
Sorry.
you're quite right. You're quite right, Pavin. And I can tell you that I have become recently aware that the Equality and Inclusion team, through the program they're developing for a number of our business area training, are looking at what we used to do in, I hate using the word old days, but what we used to do in the old days, and Andy Lai will remember this, when a new officer or new recruit joins us, they have to spend some time in the community with different community groups to learn from the community's perspective, things that are relevant and important. Do you remember that, Andy? Yeah, well, that's coming back. So hopefully what you're talking about, Pavin, will to some degree address that area of the service.
Yeah, I suppose I was just thinking, I'm sorry, I can't remember everybody's names, but, you know, we have got, you know, a lot of people on this call with connected communications networks, and I think coordinating and using those as broadly as possible, as Sam has said, you know, our communications teams, the universities communication teams, the police communication team, and rather than us all operating independently of each other, what's the plan to come together to have one, you know, huge kind of blast or ongoing drip that we share and that we do all the same. So I do think that's a really good idea. And I think there's also quite a lot of discussion at the moment around the wider diversity and inclusion agenda that's being highlighted through the City of Culture work. And I certainly would like, and can you remind me of the date in October? Could somebody remind me of the week?
Sure, yes, it was Saturday the 9th to Saturday the 16th of October, yeah.
I know that there's a plan, I have a plan certainly so the city has a kind of a leadership board called Southampton Connect that's got people like the chief, the vice chair of the university on it, and, you know, senior leaders from health and various other folk, and there's a meeting around that time. And actually, bizarrely, I've already got a diversity and inclusion slot that I was planning to take to that meeting. So I wonder if there's some way that we could bring representatives from the Hate Crime Network into that discussion, because I think it would all coincide really, really well. I haven't got a plan, Ian. I'm thinking out loud because you're just jogging my mind, but maybe we can touch base after this and think about how the network can be part of that, you know, how the Connect can support the network around getting some of those messages out.
I think that would be good. I mean, you know, we're here to coordinate. Well,
not racist here, it's not racist, you know. And I'm sorry to pick on Bill again, but as you know, he knows that twice a week, that's average for him. And we know this is happening, but some people are blind to it. Now, we want to change how they're blind to it. And the only way we can do that is to have people experience being in with other communities, in with other people, making different friends. That's really the only way to do it. We believe education is the key. We'd like to see more, I know, community all the time, and the community doesn't have a lot of money, but more events, more charities, things like Chinese New Year, that was fantastic. I mean, events like this for all sorts of things that are going on, definitely more advertisement for them throughout the city, on our billboards, on our objects that we've got laying around, even on the paths. You know, we could put things on paths and roads if we had to, but we need to get people involved, and also like what we're interested in hearing is, when people are having these experiences or crimes or incidents, how many people are sticking up for these people? You know, we want to know how many people of the public are calling racism out and saying, well, hang on, you can't say it, you shouldn't say that. And, you know, sticking up for the person and making them feel defended and helping them with their reporting it all. And we have so many ideas in it, even from in schools. You know, the schools definitely need more literature, more diversive education, you know, more diversity, more even down to books and lessons and all sorts. And also we feel that teachers should be looking out for parents who are teaching their children racism, because it, you know, to teach racism, it's abuse, it's a form of abuse. And we'd like to see, you know, this is how we're struggling, is that it should be a crime to teach your child to be racist. It's abuse, but it's also freedom of speech and human rights that we can't, you know, and then the child will end up suffering if we punish that parent. So it's thinking how to go about these issues. But we believe that education is the key, and we're learning, and there's still so much that we need to learn as well. And I